Shaktivel, when we are ready to go, you can tell me. Now we'll start. Okay.
Sir, 5 minutes, sir.
No problem.
Dear participants, very good evening. So thank you for joining with us for the seminar. So, myself, Saktivel, Field Coordinator, Center for Entrepreneurship Development, Anna University, CEG campus. And so today we have Mr. AJB sir, AJ Balasubramaniam. He's a director at Adrix Health. Having totally 20 years experience in engineering, so also management, engineering and management. Right now, he's in healthcare industry. So today we are going to see what are the startup opportunities in healthcare industry. Sir, AJP sir already worked in both IT industry and healthcare industry. So he will explain about how the technology will be applied on the healthcare industry. So, in behalf of you, I would like to welcome Mr. AJB sir. So AJB sir is one of the alumni from the CG campus, College of Engineering, Gindi, Anna University. He's also a executive member of CG Alumni Association. Uh, he's one of the founder of CEG Alumni Foundation for Entrepreneurship Excellence, SIGIN, the technology-based incubator. He played a major role to found the incubator also. So thank you, sir. Thank you for joining with us. So you can proceed, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Shaktivel, for the introduction. So today, I think we are going to. So, how many of your students? How many are staff members? Any idea, Shaktivel, on this? So,
Mixed, sir. Maybe two or three, maybe from faculty, sir.
okay. Okay. So I'm going to. Can I record this session, or you will record it? Record. I can record this in my computer. Okay. I'll record it. Okay. So, good afternoon to all of you. My name is Balasubramanian. Like Shakti said, like I have been an entrepreneur. I graduated from Guindy Engineering College as a mechanical engineer in 1984. So immediately we started a startup with my friends who are also my batchmates in Guindy Engineering College, and I had multiple venture experience. My original company, I spent nearly 13 years in that company. Later on, I moved to IT. I have worked in both hardware and software. I also have, worked in .com companies, and I found .com companies. Right now, I'm heading an Indian operation of international product company, which is called Agilex Health Technologies, and here in Agilex, we are developing a health information exchange product for the US market. So, but my presentation will touch upon the various opportunities that anyone who is desirous of getting into healthcare can get some idea about how the industry is. So I will cover also about how the industry can be segmented in different ways, and healthcare is a very, very vast canvas. So it's a very huge opportunity. Some time ago when people were asking, you all may be knowing about Cisco's chairman, John Chambers. He said that in the world, there are always big opportunities in certain sectors of industries. He said one of the major industry segment is healthcare. I mean, it is always there. I mean, no matter how difficult the circumstances in economics or how difficult the circumstances in financial market, the evergreen market is healthcare, because healthcare is something that we cannot, live without. There are seasons, in which each industry goes through ups and downs, but healthcare always has been one of the evergreen industries. So there is continuous requirements, and there is continuous improvement, and there are lots of money is being spent on healthcare across the world. To give you a perspective, though India, we spend not as much as other countries. In the US, it is estimated that they are spending close to about $2 trillion on healthcare. $1 trillion is something like 7 lakh crores, and 14 lakhs crores or something. So you can imagine, so much money is going into managing healthcare. And India, we have a mixed model where the government is providing in certain sections in healthcare, but largely we are also privately paying for ourselves. And as well, we have also seen that recently more and more insurance companies are coming in. So we are paying for medical insurance premium amount, and then whenever we fall sick, so we go and claim the expenses that we incur in medical for medical services that we avail. Quickly, let me go to the next slide. So I'm showing you here one of the devices that which we actually developed when in my first venture. Not exactly the same picture though, but this is because I don't have it as a 30-year. Before we developed the product, we didn't that those days there is no cell phone and all that to take a quick picture of this. So this is something that you can see here is what is called as a syringe infusion pump. And right now, one of my friends, who is also manufacturing it, in this, we actually made the electronics portion of the syringe infusion pump. Now, why am I showing this particular piece of equipment is because now, if you really look at the syringe infusion pump, this has got multiple components to it. It is neither software purely nor hardware, and it is also somewhat electronics involved, something in mechanical is involved, something in plastic may be involved, and there is a stepper motor inside, which actually drives the pump. So syringe infusion pump is basically a pump which is used to dose patients with medicines at a very small, very minute rate. In other words, like if you go to a doctor, there is an injection that 5 ml or 10 ml they directly pump into your veins or your skin quickly. It goes into intramuscular or intravenal. They will simply put it, or if you go and get admitted, sometimes they put it what is called as a venflon on your wrist, and then on top of it they connect this intravenous fluid which keeps coming. So in all these cases, they have to precisely control the dosage of certain medicines. Now, here is a design which actually what they have put is, you can see that there are two syringes. Literally, syringes are like whatever is the one that people use for injection, and there are two tubes going out. And these two different medicines have to be mixed in the patient's body at a given rate very slowly. So what they have done is, there is a screw. I mean, you can see that there is a screw that, with threads and all that. So there is a stepper motor, which you see there is a red belt-like thing which is connected, and below is a stepper motor. You all know, if you're a mechanical or electrical engineer, you know what is a stepper motor. Stepper motor is an electronically controlled motor. It can do precision rotation. By very slowly operating the screw, this actually the piston in the syringe is being pushed forward. So you can regulate the injection of fluid at the rate of something like 1 cc per minute or something. It's a very small quantity, and over a minute, if you're just pumping in 1 cc, the motor has to rotate very, 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 very slowly. Now, these are the kind of application that you will find in healthcare. It's a combination of not just one technology. It is a combination of many technology. Here you have a microprocessor board which has got a hardware, and then you have to write a program to run the microprocessor, and then on top of it there is a stepper motor, and then the stepper motor is connected to a mechanical system, and there is a plastic enclosure. So it's a whole product. So if you are looking at a hardware like project, so there are so many such small items which you all will not know evidently when you really see from outside. So one of the major themes of my talk is that if you really want to get into healthcare, first thing you must understand is that you must really study and know about the domain of healthcare. Is a very, very vast and complex and very critical domain, which is not like unlike other domains, you cannot make mistakes in most of the areas in healthcare, because it is concerning people's lives, and then most of the products which are made are very critical, and then they are life sustaining. So you have to make it very accurately, at the same time very competitively. And because healthcare is such a vast market globally, there are so many companies which are very actively manufacturing products for the healthcare market. And I will as we go, I will dwell with you into more things. And this is another variation of a similar pump. It is called a peristaltic pump. You can see in the in the drawing on the left corner, you have a series of cylinder like thing which actually rotates and then presses the tube. The tube has got the fluid. In the syringe case, the syringe was pushing. In this case, what it does is it actually pinches the volume slowly, and then there's a camshaft, and because of the rotation, the fluid is pushed forward a little bit, and then you are regulating the flow of the fluid. And this is again another medical application that people are making. I want to just show you to kickstart how it's an intricate design, and it's a small compact design. It's a multidisciplinary thing. So if you really want to really work in healthcare, basically you should be ready to learn more than one technology, and be ready to learn most of this application. This is about just to trigger your curiosity, how some of the very, very simple and complex products looks very elegant, and in design and engineering there are great challenges. So people really do many such things in the healthcare industry. So if you're a serious engineer, there are possibilities for you to really get a lot of opportunities to work on in these areas. Okay, so next I will go to the next slide, and you will find that in the healthcare areas, basically we have multiple stakeholders within the healthcare system. So the first number is the patients. Patients are the whole reason why the healthcare industry exists. So you should understand patients are one set of market which you can cater to. Then what we call is providers. Providers are like hospitals, doctors, therapists, and clinicians, like pharmaceutical companies and durable medical equipment companies and all that. And there is, like payers. Payers are insurance companies. This is also part of the healthcare market. Insurance companies are requiring some kind of software, some kind of devices, something and all that. I will explain to you. Then there are regulators, the government, and then some regulatory bodies require certain kind of solutions. So that is a market which is also part of the health. And then there is enablers. Enablers are somebody who helps these people to do their work. So enablers are typically, even though they are a subset of the provider, for example, medical equipment manufacturers are not exactly directly providing the service, but they help the providers to provide these services by supplying them equipments. For example, GE makes CT scan machines, X-ray machines. So Philips makes want to get into healthcare market, possibly you should understand what are the various segments within healthcare there is available. So which market I should consider, and how to evaluate opportunities. So as I told you, so this most of these mix of many of the technologies, hardware, software, and domain expertise. So if you do not know much about healthcare, to get into healthcare is not easy. You can select one narrow area within healthcare and then start learning many things in healthcare, and from there you can go to the next level of developing some serious healthcare products also. So there is like in this in the slides that are going to come, I'm going to talk about the need for healthcare domain expertise, and opportunity identification process, and how do you build a minimum viable product, some support system available, and then later on we will have a question answer session. Now, what you see here on the what you see here on the what do you call, like the slide is a curve called bathtub curve. The curve is called bathtub curve because this is similar to a bathtub. Okay, now you find that the curve has got a peak in rise on the left side, what we call is 0 to 5 years. The horizontal axis, what it means is the life of a human being. It starts at 0. So what I marked as infant mortality region is like children which are born immediately have a very high risk of getting into healthcare problems. So therefore there is an increased death rate immediately when children fall. In the world average, anywhere from 1 to 10, or out of 1,000 children or babies born, 1 to 10 children, or maybe even more in some places, can get into healthcare problem, and they may come as what is called as a prenatal complication. Immediately after they are born, they are detected there's a malnutrition or premature baby, something like that. So there is a huge requirement for healthcare requirement in the in the early period, infant period. So that's a mortality is high because the risk is high. Like in reliability engineering also, if you see that any product which we make, immediately it will fail, but many products survive. And then there is this horizontal area which is called the useful life period. So this is maybe from 5 to 65 years. Generally people don't get much sick. I mean, we get sickness, but we don't get as sick, but there is still mortality, which means people die or get into acute problems, but it actually is manageable. Not many people get into that. So therefore the requirement for healthcare actually comes down to a modest level, and it remains constant up until people reach some 60-65 years old. The moment they cross the age of maybe 60 and all that, suddenly you find that aged people start having more and more complication, and slowly it peaks. It peaks and then it goes on top, and then people actually eventually after 90 years or 95 years people die. So this so what this curve implies is that so you must be able to understand that like only in these extreme regions there is a lot of care requirement. On the horizontal region there are some care required, but these are not like high in intensity, but still there are a certain percentage of people get into problems, so healthcare is to be provided. So understand this, like how the healthcare model works, because in the aged area, in the old people are going to require the most support. So therefore probably there is a larger market that you can look at in these areas. And in the mid areas, I mean, what is called as a useful life period of a person, the care requirements are modest usually. Okay, now, so the healthcare industry has a certain characters which are like, it's a very important industry, as I said, because life is very important, health is very important, people are willing to spend a lot of money, even government is supposed to be responsible for people's health. So this is always an important industry because it is political also. If healthcare is not done, for example, in COVID situation, the government of Tamil Nadu is taken a lot of initiative, which is actually completely subsidized most of the care, including testing, and then quarantining people, providing them with food and medical support, because this is a very critical and essential industry. So therefore it will be always, government will oversee. There is stringent regulations of often, if you are not performing well in the healthcare, actually you may be taken to task. So you should be careful when you are actually venturing into healthcare industry. And there are a lot of moral, ethical issues. You are not supposed to, healthcare is supposed to be fair. You are not supposed to really charge more or cheat people, and that will be viewed as very, very wrongly. So you should be knowing, for example, you can't make an equipment and then suddenly start selling the equipment unless you are sure that equipment will meet with all the regulatory requirements. Otherwise, it's also morally and ethically wrong. People can get killed. So these are very important. And it is a service industry. Unlike, it's not to be treated as a manufacturing industry. Even though you make a lot of manufactured items for such things that you just give it, people start using it. There is a service component in everything that you do in healthcare is attached. So yeah, if you want to really get into healthcare, I think you should have both competence and commitment, which is really, really skillful, and also have a long haul. You should be really willing to serve people. I mean, look at the whole area as a very, very good opportunity for you to serve and help people, and then keep them health and fit. Doctors are among the smartest people, because if you are, I mean, most likely you are engineer, and then you are not going to easily sell this product, because like engineers, doctors are also one of the smartest lot, because you can't sell easily to the doctors. So healthcare industry is always having this challenge, but not that you can't sell, but unless your product is really, really valuable, doctors are not going to really buy them, and easily you can be successful in this market. So what we see is there is a interesting trend happening up, because the healthcare itself is becoming more and more like an engineering, technology based industry. Gone are the days, expertise from the doctors are required to provide all the services in healthcare. Now what is happening is even doctors are relying more and more on technology, because technology has gone in, and evolved in such a way that, that many of the components of healthcare industry are moving into engineering and technology. So therefore, there is also an equally good opportunity, even though I cautioned you about, the possibilities of having challenges in entering the healthcare industry. But the trend is, you see that more and more healthcare is becoming technology and engineering problem to be solved. Like, it's increasing. So this is opening up a lot of new opportunity. So as I told you, again, I want to emphasize the domain expertise. You cannot master the entire, domain of healthcare, but whichever part of the industry that you are trying to make a product or a service, so you should be willing to learn about how this particular area within the healthcare works. Only then you will be able to make a right and appropriate product that meets with the requirement and the challenges that are existing in the market. So that is very important. So you should be really willing to learn a lot about the domain. You can't just jump in and then start making something, and it will not make sense to people. So that's very important. So I told you patients, among patients, I told you there are multiple components. We talked about patients, and then providers, and then payers, and then enablers, and then regulators. So if you really look at patients, within patients, you can't see that healthcare industry as a patient as a single segment of market. There are different types of patients. There are adult patients, infant patients, geriatric or aged patients, and all that. So if you are making a product, possibly you may not be catering to all these segments of patients. So you have to choose which type of patient you are going to serve, which age group. or which complication type. So there is some differentiator. So then there are types of care. People get healthcare in different types of settings, what we call as like, there is a chronic care type of patient. If you're a diabetic person, so you still require some care. It may not be very acute or intensive. So it may be that the patient stays at home, but still, every day he takes some medicine. He actually monitors his blood glucose, and he has to conduct some test on some urine or something. So like that, the chronic patients, if you're a heart patient, or if you're a blood pressure patient, so you are not going to be very critical. Every day is not going to be life and death situation, but you are chronically ill. So therefore you have to really take care of yourself every day. So these are some markets where there is an opportunity for you. Then there is primary care. Primary care is like, when you fall ill, like for example, you have a temperature running. What do? You go to a doctor nearby your house, or you go to a primary healthcare centers. So the primary healthcare, like a primary care is, first you go and meet a doctor, and the doctor immediately does an investigation. So the doctor sees, what kind of problem you have, and then, if there is a treatable cause, so he will immediately prescribe you a set of medicine. So suppose he suspects that there is a complication, so he will order some, lab test or diagnostics. He will say, go take an X-ray, or do a blood test, or this test and all that, do a scan. So the moment he does it, look, there is an opportunity within the healthcare. The lab becomes an opportunity, the lab equipment becomes an opportunity, setting up a lab is an opportunity. So this is, like the whole ecosystem evolves within healthcare. You can't be all over the place. So you are going to look at, which particular area, the small piece within this healthcare setting where you are going to do. The primary care person, suppose if he is not convinced, he is not able to treat you because he sees that there is an anomaly in your ECG, then he will call a specialist. So he will do a referral. He will write and then ask you to go and see a specialist, or go and meet a cardiologist in this place. So the cardiologist, the moment you go, they do certain kind of test. The cardiologist, looking at the patient's, various conditions, he may recommend that, either it is treatable through some kind of medication. Sometimes they perform a surgery also. So your arteries are clogged, so you have to do a bypass because it's choked. So then he is actually moved to what is called as an acute care. Acute care means intensive care. So the moment, if you see that, go to big hospital, there is an operation theater, and then, you have an acute care facility. We call it as ICU, where patients are going through a lot of intensive care, which is very expensive. So you can see that, primary care, and then referral to specialist, and then it moves to acute care. Then there is, after that you are discharged, and then there is some kind of a support required. The moment you come back to home, people are taking care of you. The assisted care living is the third type of tertiary care, or post-acute. They call it as post-acute. After the acute condition is over, patients are moved to what is called as a post-acute care. So there still again, people still require some kind of assistance, but it will not be as intensive as the acute care, but it is not as light as primary care, but still there is a requirement. So in the assisted living care and all that, if you really see, aged people are taken to some kind of a retirement home where chronic patients are there. There are every time somebody may be continuously on a wheelchair, and they will have some kind of medical condition. So these are also areas where there are huge opportunities within healthcare that is coming. So then again, within healthcare, and human body has got so many anatomy. We have head, we have ears, you have nose, you have eyes, you have our organism is a very complicated subsystems. It consists of many complicated subsystems. So doctors specialize, like there is a pediatric doctor, there is a cardiac doctor, there's an endocrinologist, there's a gastronomy doctor, there's a neurology. So if you are really wanting to develop a product, very unlikely you can address all these segments. So you have to choose one of the areas and possibly admit. And some of the applications are universal. So you should really define your product market segment, where if you want to get into healthcare, so how do I identify my particular area of specialization and then start working on that. So this I've already told you. Then there is, actually we missed what is called as an emergency care. People immediately get into some accident, and this is called the continuum of care. Care exists in a continuum. It takes a stretch, like you start with primary care, go to specialist, then go to acute care, then go to post-acute. Sometimes you also get into emergency care, and then it becomes acute care, and then you go to post-acute. So this is how the whole thing is So if you really look at any healthcare setting, the first time patient goes into the hospital, so the physician initially does the diagnostics, the doctor meets you and then looks at you, asks you some question, and he comes to some prognosis. This could be the possible problem. So then he orders an investigation, and then you go to a lab, and then there is a treatment protocol. After they see the results of the lab, they give you a treatment protocol, and then sometimes they recommend you to do a hospital stay. And within the hospitals you have the hospital infrastructure, hospital monitors, so many things. And there are supplies and consumables which are used in hospital, from anything, cotton, surgical cotton, like so many things. And then there is bed, and then monitors, then there is like your operation theater equipments and so many things. For example, incinerators is one of the applications which are extensively medical incinerators, which is like you can't dispose all the medical supplies which are used, medical consumables which are used, like cotton and all that, which has got some germs and patient what do you call, like refuses, like your blood and your whatever is the mucus and all that. So the government says that you are not supposed to dispose them. So there is something called an incinerator, which is actually burns the entire used up equipment items and all that, and the consumables and supplies. So there is a product called incinerator. This is also a part of healthcare market. So then the service delivered, how they deliver this various items. And then there is a payment process within healthcare. You get paid because there is a payer, insurance company is there is a claim adjudication. So then you submit this paper, and then the health insurance company pays you all that. Then there is a follow-up care. So if you really see, this is a flow that you must understand, and which part of the flow you are going to make your product or service to sit in. So for example, in diagnostics, it's a huge opportunity. COVID is a case example that we see now. What had happened in COVID, we are all seeing that the COVID test typically cost today around 3,500 to 4,000 rupees. Now, this is a huge cost. Suppose if you can find a COVID test, which is like, maybe you all must have seen this diabetic testing, that small strip of thing, and you put one dot of blood and there is a small interface unit, a small electronics device, and then you insert that and put the drop of blood, and automatically it tells you a glucose. It uses some kind of a nanotechnology and chemical. So the blood is actually mixes with this chemical strips there, and it produces some kind of voltage. Based on the voltage, the voltage is produced based on the sugar present in the blood. So if we can, for example, find out a small test system for COVID, today everybody will buy, because we are all worried whether we have got COVID or not. The actual test is very expensive. It is also time consuming. Look at the diabetic test. It's just like 5 minutes, 2 minutes it takes. Immediately you get to know. So the diagnostics is a market, like in many areas, not only this, many disease diagnostics, if they can be simplified, and then they are made fast, cheap, and easily administrable, which means you don't have to go to the lab to test the glucose level today. So same way, if you can innovate something and come up with that, there is a huge market. There are so many variations. But remember, in healthcare, if you have to do all that, you should become an expert in healthcare. It is not easy to really get into healthcare without enough knowledge and understanding of how the healthcare markets and healthcare industry works. So then you have a lot of investigation. Today, what is happening is, on the one hand, as I said, technology and engineering is in a big time getting into healthcare market. And lot of things that happens, also uses technology. So there are large number of costly investigation systems. So if you can make them miniaturized, for example, the ECG, which used to be a very expensive equipment about 10-15 years ago, now what people have done is, you have a small mobile phone which has got a USB port, your Type-C type or micro USB port. This micro USB port can read and do the computation that are basically to be done in any computer that the typical ECG that were actually produced earlier. So basically, in all these cases, there is a transducer and sensor, and there is an analog signal coming in. This analog signal is converted into some kind of a digital format, and for the capturing the analog signal is basically through probes and other things. If you can condition those signals and then put it into a digital system and write a program, so you are able to really produce simply, if you are really working really hard to find out a probe, possibly you can make a ECG system that can be used with any typical mobile phone that we all carry today. So why is this important? Because ECG even today is not available in all the all the healthcare settings. So why not, if a person has a chronic health condition, so we should be able to devise something where people can in 10 minutes within their home setting, they should be able to, in a cheap, if you're making ECG equipment which is about 500,000 rupees, and then anybody can check their ECG quickly, will that not be great? So these are the opportunity you should because what is happening is there is a huge digitization possibility, and then we are collecting a lot of data, and this also makes it very easy for us to really make these kind of equipments. So look at these kind of opportunities. So the other thing, like one of the areas which most of you may be thinking, how do I make healthcare software? And as we have been telling, in the beginning, the provider, when I mean provider, they are healthcare providers. They are like doctors, hospitals, therapists, physician, specialist doctors and all that. They are all called, providers. There are small clinics, where only 1 or 2 doctors exist. And there are medium-sized clinic where, 10, 15 doctors are there. Maybe they are practicing. There are small, medium-sized hospitals where, there are 10, 15 beds are there. It may be in your neighborhood, where they have a 24 hours clinic, and then attached to that a few beds and all that. And there are, specialty hospitals, and there are practice management, which sophistication, and then so all these, in all these settings, in the provider setting, they require one software for running their operation. So hospital, there is a billing software is required. Then there is a software which is used for the clinical data. What is called as an electronic medical record, or all the electronic documentation of the patients. So you have a software opportunity there. You can build a software for this market. Similarly, the practice management is what I told you, is a small hospital or a post-acute care hospital. So there are one doctor or more than one doctor, or a huge hospitals are there. So there are mid-sized hospitals. So you can make a product for this market. Then there is payer business process software. Right now, the market in India for health insurance is really booming, and they're expecting that more and more transactions in payment processing will happen through insurance. So if you are very good in software, if you are really capable of writing some complex good software, then I think you can look at this payer business process software, where one can go to the hospitals and then show a card, and then the hospital fellow inserts the card into a system. That system actually immediately goes and reads the insurance companies, whether this patient is eligible for this kind of insurance claim. Then there is an authorization. Yes, you can admit the patient, the insurance company will pay. So all this automation possibility, and then claim processing, after the services provide to the patient, so they can process the claim, which means the hospital gets paid for the service. So that can be automated. Then there are some claim processing and dispute resolution mechanism. All this can be built in. Now then comes most providers, doctors and hospitals, they want really have a relationship with the patient. So that's called patient relationship, similar to a customer relationship management software. So that's where we make a lot of apps. We make mobile apps or portals where the customer can, or the patient can log in and check out whether I can meet the doctor, where are my medical records. He can order some tests, somebody can come and collect the sample at home. So these are patient centric applications, which are part of the provider network, what do you call ecosystem. The entire the ecosystem is there. There is one, a patient is one of the ecosystem member, so he's a central member. So therefore you can also make some of the products and services which is just focusing on only on the patient's requirement. And I told you already, diagnostics, and then like if you're a hardware centric person, so there are a lot of monitors, diagnostic systems. So these are possible. So you can it's very hard. In fact, like somebody says that what is the opportunity in healthcare, there are numerous opportunity. It is very, very difficult. Then so that is why I'm giving you a broad outline of what are the possibilities, and then dwell into these small areas and find out one niche, and then take a product. I can give you a prescription, go and develop this, but we don't know which market is good for you. What is your competence? What is your interest? Whether there are good competitors already, whether you can beat them, or whether you can innovate in this. There is still possibility. I mean, definitely, if one of you is very smart, you can go out and then invent something and make products which are really competitive and cheap. But first, you must understand, before you get into the market, having a big picture is very important. That's why I'm trying to give you a big picture of how this market is fragmented, which particular area you should select, how do you select, and all that is very important. So one thing what is happening is, currently most of the software that are used in the provider, payer, practice management environment, they are all existing legacy software. And what we see is, you have always seen that nowadays everybody is going to software as a service model. So if you write a very good SaaS product for any of these markets, and then if these markets are useful to you, I mean, if this market finds your product useful, then definitely there is there's going to be a growth possibility and success possibility. But it is not easy though. But what is happening is, the old generation products are getting outdated slowly. If not now, tomorrow, day after, in the coming years, in the coming months, you will see that a lot of companies are getting into this area, and they will all provide some kind of a SaaS model. Basically the SaaS model is pay per use, so it is easy, it's low cost for the customers, and at the same time you can keep on enhancing the product, and then you can scale it. A lot of people can, either a 10-member hospital can use the same product, or a 1,000-member hospital can also use the same product. So every software service is now moving towards SaaS. So here is an inflection point. Right now many companies, many providers who are using the old generation software eventually may migrate into SaaS model. So if you are able to come up with a very good SaaS product for one of these markets, possibly you are going to really succeed. Now then, like, you get into the hospital. So there are, like, in thousands of, you remember when you last time went to the hospital, you've seen a lot of equipments which you don't even figure out and understand. There is something sitting there, some with the display, some there is, some kind of a, hardware. There are, mechanical items, patient bed systems, on the patient side, the hanging hook, the hooks that hang the, intravenous fluid. So there are thousands of requirements within the healthcare setting, but you must go and then innovate. If there is an existing product which is not meeting some of the problems that doctors face, then there is an opportunity possibility. But you can only figure out those opportunities when you get into the hospital, or when you get into the healthcare system and learn more about what is being, what is happening there, what problems customers are facing, how can I solve you, and how can I give it in a very different way that the product is useful for the customer. So the understanding is very important. So we talked about operation theater equipment. So there is monitoring system, there is lighting system, so which you may not think that is a healthcare opportunity. If you really see, the operation theater lighting itself is a huge market. Setting up a bed in the operation theater is a huge market. So it's a very big, costly affair. So if you're a mechanical engineer, you are interested in designing something very good. So these are opportunities for you. Not necessarily that only computer IT guys can work in this market. There are so many opportunities. Then like you have this patient monitoring system, which is like people want to always have some monitor on them. We have a Fitbit like item, we have some other monitors we wear all the time. So here, as I told you, the computing power is now in your hands with a mobile phone. So the mobile phone can be leveraged for various types of things. You can invent around that. So there is a hardware, and you have to make another hardware, like some sensors and interfaces and all that, and then you can use it. So right now everybody is innovating. A lot of companies are innovating. Small devices are being manufactured, and then they are being tried out. So you can, if you're really creative and look at this market and then come up with things, then you can make equipments for the lab, diagnostics area. You can make some equipments for the lab. And then there is a durable medical equipment possibility, which is like from your crutches to wheelchair and all that. These are not actually something that cures the patient, but it aids the patient. If an invalid patient cannot move, what they do, they put him on a wheelchair. A motorized wheelchair is there. A motorized wheelchair in India, every year there may be a 10 lakh motorized wheelchair requirement. And today, like they are expensive, they are either imported, they are, like coming from various places. So why don't you design a good wheelchair which is motorized and then joystick controlled, and then it can climb, stairs and things like that. You can innovate around that. So then there are, physiotherapy assistants. For example, like if a patient meets with an accident and he's not able to, move his fingers like this, a physiotherapist will advise him, slowly open your hand every day 10 times and then slowly close. So for this, like they are using various type of measurements. In VIT Vellore, I have seen one girl and a boy who are in their final year. They have come out with a set of system where they have made an interface for their, hand for the patient, and they made a lot of transducers and mechanisms and all that, and the patient can self teach, either induced or every day he is able to do the forcefully close it, and then the system also aids him to force, and he opens up, and the system studies what kind of what you call strength he's got, and whether he is improving, whether he is doing well or not, or how much he is able to open every day. So these are things, the whole thing is attached to a mobile phone, and there is an app which reminds him, which also helps him to do all this very systematically. So these are possible opportunities that you can all find out. So we talked about it, the personal diagnostics and monitoring system, as I told you, like cheap monitors and cheap diagnostic system. Right now in COVID time, we saw there is a surge of requirement for pulse oximeter. The presence of oxygen in your blood is a clear indicator of whether your lung is infected or not. So pulse oximeter, the cheap pulse oximeter, which came to around even 2,000 rupees. First it used to cost around 4,000 rupees about 4 months ago. Now it has come to around 1,500 rupees. Also you get a decent pulse oximeter. So there is tremendous opportunity in this. I told you again about personal ECG. Medical wearable, some of the companies like Apple and Fitbit and all that, what they have started as people's personal sports, or what you call this fitness monitors, how many steps you count, whether you are running or whether you are properly sleeping. So these were the devices that originally they were using to collect this data from patients, but eventually now what they are doing is they are adding all these additional personal health data collection possibilities within these devices. Now this is growing very fast. So the future is going to be that probably every one of us wear one wearable system in our body, and we will continuously know what is happening. So you don't have to really make such very futuristic thing, but also you can think like what can help a old person. Think of a monitor that you can devise and come up. Now basically, if you really see that any architecture, as I already explained, there is a core hardware, which is like your mobile phone, and there is a sensor and transducer which actually looks at the physical parameter of a patient, which is temperature, or rate of blood flow, or heartbeat, or oxygen presence, or temperature, or maybe presence of some chemical compound, whatnot is in your blood chemistry, like whatnot is that. So this can be sensed by a sensor and transducer, and that can be fed into a hardware, and there is a software which sits on top of it, and there is a user interface. Now if you really look at it, all that you have to focus sometimes is only on this sensor and transducer area, because the rest of the area, it's very easy, because the existing your hardware, which comes in the form of a typical mobile phone, meets with most of the cases. Earlier people have to make the entire system, which means people have to also make the hardware to make a suitable software, and then make a suitable transducer system and all that. So now there is a vast opportunity. There is a general purpose computing device which is cheap, about 10,000-15,000 rupees, you get a very decent mobile phone. Now not only that, the same mobile phone hardware can be used for multiple applications. So if you are very curious, and if you are very serious about this marketplace, you can explore this area. This is something that I see that innovation can happen in a big time, and it's also easy. So you don't have to invest a lot of money in developing products. Developing products is costly because you have to spend a lot of money. Now if you really study these kind of markets, there's a huge possibility that you can really invent something great. So that's what, like I told you already, it's an interdisciplinary. It's not like, I'm only a computer engineer, can I make something? Or I'm only an electronic engineer, I can make something. So you have to really be a mechanical engineer, a mechatronic engineer, an electronics engineer, and then a software guy, and then you should be able to design the product also. So you have to learn about designing the entire product end to end, which means, like not one expertise is sufficient for you to be successful in healthcare market. And most of the healthcare products may require one way or the other a multidisciplinary approach. In addition to all of this, you should also have domain expertise. That is very, very important. So there are a lot of innovation possibilities, because earlier people were thinking that this is not possible because of that, and that is not possible because of this limitation. So now what we are seeing is the computing power is going down. So miniaturization is improving, because you have your desktop 3D printing systems and all that, in which case you can even make very few pieces very elegantly and beautifully. And the software is becoming powerful, because everybody also knows how to use a mobile phone. So it puts you into a situation where you can make a software and compensate for a lot of hardware. The first device, the first device that I showed you on the infusion pump, you see that they had hardware completely. And today I think the electronics can be replaced by a software. I mean, most of the electronics can also be replaced by software. And the one of the core CPU hardware can be a standard, maybe a mobile phone. That's possible. So that's a level of changes that is happening. So sensor and transducers are very important, as I told you. So that's where the innovation game is going to be. And there are more and more sensors are coming. If you're a mechanical engineer, for example, there are orthopedic implants. People when they actually lose their limbs, or there is a limb which is broken, or we are seeing a lot of people are replacing their knees. And in India, we are yet to do a lot of work in this area. So if you're a serious mechanical engineer with a flair in metallurgy, there is a lot of implants. They are expensive, they are very costly when they are imported. You are actually making human body parts, like your hand, wrist, or your finger, which is lost, and then you are making some hinges and these alloys and all that can be implanted within the human body, and it can work like regular body parts. So there is people believe that in the next 50 years, eventually everybody will have some kind of implant in their suppose you constantly have a problem with your wrist which is not functioning, or there is a pain which is happening. So suddenly what doctors might do is they'll simply replace your wrist with some mechanical wrist. So it will not be seen from outside whether it is a mechanical wrist or a natural wrist. So we are moving in that direction, but you can find opportunity here. If you're a mechanical engineer, you thought that there is not much I can do, or a metallurgy engineer, and there is opportunity. You definitely implant is such an opportunity which is coming. So as I told you, if you really look at any healthcare business model, there used to be like if you're making a product, you should be able to know the domain, should be able to know the biological sciences, or what is happening in the body and the body system, and there's possibly some chemistry involved, and there is some engineering. So only when you all put them together, there is a huge opportunity that you can convert them as product. Of course, some of them will concentrate on one of these four areas, but nevertheless, I think they're going to be overlapping. That's very important. And even if you want to make an EMR system, so what we call as electronic medical record or hospital software, you should be able to know how the care protocol works. How the patient is admitted, what do they do in the labs, what kind of reports come, how the doctors want to see the lab report, whether this can be presented like this. What are the challenges in compressing like high resolution images which are coming from X-ray. Now you should have this knowledge. Without that, it's not very easy to get into this market. So one suggestion that for aspiring students and other things, what I will suggest you is you should basically use what is called as an effectual mode of identifying business opportunity, which means you don't simply select something and then figure out how to do it. You can do it also, but it is not a good idea. The other approach is, you should always ask, what can I do? I mean, whether I'm capable of doing certain things, what are those things? If you are not capable of certain things, please learn and pick up some experience. or learn something. I mean, even if you don't pick up experience, do a lot of experiments and then immerse yourself into that area. So you will have to know something before you start, and what you have. I mean, in other words, whether you have access to capabilities. One of your uncles is a doctor, or one of your aunt is owning a hospital. They have a requirement. I mean, these are things you have to take into account when you actually conceive your product. I mean, conceive your business idea, because these are subtly very important thing. Because if you do not have anything and start, the struggle will be very, very, very big. So you will become tired. Sometimes the odds of success is reduced. So who that's what, like if you know someone, leverage them, ask them, go and talk to a doctor, understand what their requirements are, and then see that whether you can solve their problem. That is how you start. And then choose a product or system where you can make it, and if you fail also, it is not going to offer, I mean, it is not going to affect you much. I don't know, it depends on individual. If you're a very rich person, if your parents are willing to put some 10 lakhs, but if it goes waste also, they don't care. But you can start on a 10 lakh project. But if you are not having enough money, start a product which you can develop within 50,000, 1 lakh, and then see whether you can get that product through. Never try to do a product which is very complicated, which is beyond your capability, that you don't know the engineering, that you don't know the science, that you don't know anybody to help you. So that's not going to be really easy for you. I'm not trying to discourage. There is a widespread belief that people think that if you really work hard, you can do anything. I'm not saying really work hard, you can do anything. There is another way of doing things, which is a smart thing. You don't really do things which are completely so difficult and then fail. So instead, you start doing what is possible, and from there start doing more possible things, and slowly more possible things. So I'm not saying you have your curtail your dreams. So you have to really understand that what you're capable of currently, and then leverage that, and then go to the next step, and then go to the next step. So it's called effectual principle. It's not like we have seen people are launching satellites also. So you can't launch a satellite unless you know the satellite technology, and then have the wherewithal to invest billions of dollars. So you should not say that nothing is impossible. That's not the way. I mean, you have to start. Nothing is impossible, true, but actually you have to have your steps clear, to go to the impossible thing. So that's what I'm trying to say. So one of the things I advise to all the people is focusing on one thing. Find out one specific area of service or product, and then find out that niche, where you can be successful. What is a niche? Niche is something like that one market where you are very strong than others. Never attempt to make many things. Some people, what they do is they simply attempt to make this thing, and then I will make that also. I will make right software, I will do the hardware for monitor, and I will create everything together. So that will not work. Actually, select one area and do that one thing very, very well. Do it so well that you become very powerful, so people come to you for that one thing. So that is the trick of successful entrepreneurship. Doing so many things looks very interesting, and then sometimes people feel that that's the way you can do great things, but that's not going to work. Actually, you should actually select one area and then focus in that area. Do extremely well. I mean, at least till you succeed very well. That is the best way to approach the whole thing. Then so I told you about niche. Look at the here we are seeing different types of birds. See, the oyster catcher is one type of bird which actually in the edge of the sea or riverbed, and they are going to only catch their prey or whatever is the their food from the land. Then there is our sets, which is like they have smaller legs, but they don't go to the deep like flamingos. They cannot work here in the land, they can work here. And so the ducks have got a capability to swim and then dive in and then catch the fish also. So you must see what kind of bird you are. So the idea is, what this thing says is, you should be able to find out what kind of bird you are, and then leverage your capability, whether you have a long leg or long neck, and depending on that only you should go to the market. You cannot simply jump into market. If you put a flamingo in this place, that will not survive. So that's the idea. So niche is very important. So within the tree also, if you see that different birds occupy in different areas. So this is niche. Go and read about niche. In markets also, there are some niche which will be very suitable for you. Take that niche and work on that. So niche is nothing but a comfortable location or a position in market in which you are successful. So what are the questions to ask? So who is your customer? First thing, ask this question: who is your customer? What is the problem you are trying to solve? Is this problem worth solving? If you solve it, will the customer be happy? Is there any competitors who is doing much better job than what you are thinking you are doing? Or if you are really doing much better job, how is it better? Is your customer ready to pay for the solution? Are you capable of building the solution? Technology, cost, production. Is there enough market size so that the effort is worth it? Suppose you make a great product, and sometimes you see in the newspapers, somebody creates something, and then they will write one village boy has created some big innovation and all that. They never become commercial success in reality, if you really see. Because making one-off effort and then devising is something, and building a business around that is something. So you have to always think like, how do I make this whole as a business where I can consistently, repeatedly make something at an economical value, and promise my customer that this will do the work that I promised for the customers, and then I'll get paid for that. That's very important. Can you mobilize the resources? These are the questions keep asking before you embark on actually selecting the market and other things. So how do you do it? First thing is you must brainstorm, ideate, and then figure out like what all I can do. Then build a small minimum viable product, and then go to a customer and talk to them and show them, hey, this is what I have done. See if it is working. And if the customer says it is successful, and go for it. If it is failed, go back to the drawing board again, start ideating, go for a new product. But in this process, before you actually make it thorough, don't spend too much money. The idea is, if you spend a lot of money and do an experiment, you are not going to be successful. Remember that, you are going to make a few mistakes. Doesn't matter, as long as the mistakes are not very expensive. So there is a false assumption among people that you take one product, immediately you become successful. And you go and study a lot of innovators and entrepreneurs' life. They make a lot of products, they make wrongly, they make mistakes. But only thing what they do is, the risks that they take is not going to completely kill them. If you are getting killed with the risk, huge risk that you are taking, and then you can't stand up and then survive. So that's a very important point. Now, here I want to introduce you to a concept called incubator. We have incubators in Guindy Engineering College, like Shaktiveer was telling in the beginning. So we have our own alumni incubator in College of Engineering Guindy. Right now, Anna University has also formed a incubator called Atal Incubator, which is Atal Incubator program under the Government of India, which is coming up in a very nice way. There are a lot of opportunities, a lot of facilities are provided, and they are selecting potential candidates for incubation. So what is incubator? Here you see that a small baby inside a incubator. The incubator is nothing but because this baby requires a lot of support. So what they do is they put the baby in this kind of thing, in this kind of a machine, which is called an incubator, and give him all the nutrients, care, attention, so that that baby becomes stronger and survives. Because startups are like these, they are born kind of not very strong. So the incubators gives you all this help. So they are institutions which can help you in building your product and validating your idea. And there will be a lot of common facilities, and they are attached usually to a university. So you have access to the professors and labs and all that. So they are going to connect you with some investors, and they are going to be mentors who are going to help you. So when you want to really start your company, explore whether you can make use of incubation facilities available. Today, Tamil Nadu is one of the states in which there are so many incubators around, throughout the state. There is, one in, there are at least 4 or 5 in Chennai. And you have, like in Vellore VIT, you have in Kongu Institute in Erode, then in Coimbatore, you have one, in Trichy, you have one, in many other universities, I can't even remember, so many are, Tamil Nadu Agriculture University has got one. So select one of the incubator which is closest to you, where you can go and talk to them and then give them your idea. They will help you in identifying whether this idea is good, or they will give you feedback, or they will support you in making this prototype. So all that are possible. So now some, futuristic, like as usual, I have to also give you some, basic interesting ideas to think, but these are not the ideas that I want you to really take it unless you are convinced. So some high-tech opportunities people are looking at is like people are delivering medicines through drone. This is like in remote areas, and even within the city right now, emergency medicines are not being able to supply to remote areas. So somebody is working on this, whether it is applicable to India or not. So I'm giving you some futuristic, imaginary ideas. So then, like big data for diagnostics, which means only when a radiologist, if you take an X-ray today, we require a radiologist to study the X-ray, and even a seasoned, very experienced radiologist can make a mistake by by looking at the X-ray, he might misdiagnose. So what they are doing is they are using big data to study various, different types of, so many thousands of, millions of records of X-rays, and then the images are compared between the good one, the normal images, and the disease prone images, or the one which has got defect in the body. So the computer analyzes the whole thing using big data, and then it learns by itself, and it cuts cost, and then it increases treatment efficacy. Sometimes what happens is, when the doctors are not there in a remote place, if there is an X-ray machine but there is no radiologist, typically this can happen because we don't have enough doctors. So these areas, they are using this kind of tools. And then stem cells, chronic diseases for diabetic and all that, they are trying to work on stem cells. The wristband, which I already talked to you. So pocket ultrasound monitors, small monitors where, you go to a ultrasound scanner. Today, the ultrasound scanner is a small unit, which is like a computer. But as I told you, you have a mobile phone. I think that should do the ultrasound, because there is a screen. There is always a port. If you can make one low-cost ultrasound, I think doctors can have one. It is not that, it's for a crude examination. If a patient comes, if a doctor feels that instead of sending the patient to a real big ultrasonic ultrasound scan lab, he can have one in his pocket. You take it out and then check whether there's a possibility of something, because the patient complains there is the pain in the stomach, or there's a stone in the kidney. Now these are the way you should be able to think, how do I reduce the cost? How do I come up with something very, very simple, miniature? And this is possible these days, but the only thing is you should have the capability. So, cancer diagnostics is a radiology imaging thing. They are using artificial intelligence. So there is, for interesting, the other thing is, in every time when doctors, treat patients, if a peculiar case comes, the case is, appearing for the first time. So they have to really go and then study all the existing, cases which people have treated across the world. So it is not easy. There are maybe about 100,000 papers in different patients have undergone. So they are creating some kind of an artificial system which can read through all this paper, and then by using keywords, the artificial intelligence system can recommend doctor, oh, similar patient in some country has been treated with this kind of thing, so you can treat him like this. So you can take out that particular paper and give it to the doctor, and it becomes quickly doctor's reference, so that the doctor can read that paper and then decide about the protocol. So like for example, it's a simple system where you can put a kiosk in airport or railway stations and all that. People can go and then give one drop of their blood, and within 10 minutes either it gives a full diagnostics about the patient's condition, how is your blood the quality, based on your blood chemistry, it can give all the data. And it cannot, if it's not able to give the data immediately, it can email the whole data later also. So these are all possibilities. We can create a system where we can view the entire live organ in 3D imaging. We have virtual reality, which can be used for physiotherapy, where people can just feel as though like they can work on that. Somebody is raising their hand. I'm going to come to you, and then in the question answer session, I think we can talk about it. Definitely I will give you time. Key to innovate is always, if you want to innovate, if you want to find out something new and then something great, so always, what you should do is, can you make something which is working slowly to become fast? For example, COVID test is taking 3 hours or 6 hours today. Can I make it within 2 hours? That's the kind of thinking. Anything that you do, can I do it faster? Can I do it smaller because it's cheaper? Can I do it cheaper? And then can I do it more accurately? Can I make it more easy to use? So even an existing product, if you want to really innovate, these are the questions you must keep asking. How can I make it faster? How can I make it smaller? How can I make it cheaper? How can I make it more accurate? How can I make it easy to use? So if you start working around this and then find a solution, possibly you are going to build better solutions. So technology drives innovation. We are seeing, constantly, as I told you already, there is a miniaturization push happening everywhere. There is internet bandwidth, so don't have to have a huge computing power with you. You can always access the huge computing power in the cloud, and the cost of computing is reducing, which means your, mobile phones are becoming powerful. So local computational power is increasing. So when you have a lot of data, you can also do a lot of analytics, which was not possible either too. So look at these things, whether one of these, can aid in designing your new product or service. So there is always, there is something like market keeps pushing pulling something. Market wants this, and also technology can also push, because technology is becoming cheaper. So look for what is changing in the market. So everybody is looking at how do I provide low cost healthcare, and people are going to, more and more self care. We don't want to go to the doctor, so we are becoming like consumer. We want to buy a product, we don't really recommend, want anybody to recommend. So can you make something where people can make this consumer like decision? So there's telemedicine. So because doctors are less in numbers, and in COVID times we are not able to even meet doctor, whether so whether telemedicine can work. So whether we can do, it's a low cost for professionals, and there are attempts already happening. So telemedicine is going to become a big success in the future. So therefore there is a huge opportunity possibility. So we are also seeing, people are living longer. Typical what do you call, like um, our life of expectancy, people used to live just for about 65 years in those days. But right now we are seeing that people are living beyond 65 years, and then many people are getting old, but they require some kind of healthcare support. So you have to see that I told you, in the bathtub curve, in the tertiary end, in the geriatric end, there are more people, more care is required. How can you service those kind of market? How can you help old people to really be healthy? So you can think those markets. These are all market pull factor. Focus on, there is also a focus on preventive healthcare system, which means people do not want to really suffer and then go to doctor. Instead, they are trying to see whether they can already predict whether, I have this problem. So this is, opening up areas like constant monitoring, self diagnostics, and all that. So data is being used widely, and government is also pushing sometimes, do this preventive care. Government is pushing, for example, in the coming years, your insurance premium may be less if you really do exercise and then you are healthy, if you sleep well. For example, sleep and exercise may be correlated to your health condition. So if you make a device which can measure the patient's sleep and exercise regime and all that, then you will be able to really provide him with a low premium for insurance, which means this person is not going to get as much sickness as person who is not taking care of himself. So therefore I want to end this session by saying that be curious and be hungry, which means, you have to really keep asking. So right now, as students, most of the time you may not be able to really understand many of what I'm saying, but you should have got a sense of it. But the very important thing is you should start working in the domain. If you want to become a healthcare guy, go read a lot of stuff about healthcare, and then be curious, keep asking questions. How can I do it better? How can I do it cheaper? How can I make it easier for people to use, where I can deliver it in a much better way than what currently the market is using it. So you should be hungry also. So you see that in the world is going through a kind of crisis, because the healthcare is really facing, posing a lot of problem, because governments are struggling, and we have a population which cannot be sustained, and then we are also seeing a lot of issues because of this. So how can you make use of these challenges and then come out with some kind of an opportunity there? Because there is always an opportunity when there is a crisis. So that is the way you should think. We saw that currently COVID has really brought healthcare to the forefront, and there is a huge renewed interest in making sure healthcare is very, very important. So that is that. I want really like close my presentation and open for question and answer, and I'm ready to take questions, and somebody who was raising, or there are some chat window, like so people were there are comments, yeah. So any questions or anything, somebody raised their hand, you can please go ahead and then ask your question. Hello, Shaktivel.
Yes,
So
sir.
how do we handle question answer session? I don't know how many people are there in the YouTube. Also, there are people seeing.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Dear participants, if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and you can ask. Please post your questions in the chat also.
Yeah, you can even ask in in the video or audio only if you're just type like did you understand did this session made some sense to you? It's good or bad, or you can type on the chat window whether it made sense or you learned something new. So that will help me like understand whether you really seen that, you understood it, where I was able to connect with you all. Or if you did not understand any specific points, you can ask me now. Don't worry, I mean, I'm not going to be judgmental. I'm not your professor. So Pramod, you are trying to do something, you're asking something. No, no question. Okay, so if there is no question, I think so excellent session, and we understood, sir, and hope good. So if you ever require any other assistance, and you can always so how to protect from COVID-19, sir? So this is a very good question. Like the point is, like COVID-19, you cannot protect forever. All of us will, one way or the other, have to get ourselves infected and somehow develop some immunity or go through that, because every pandemic eventually conquers. But basic care, wash your hands, wear mask, and then be clean, or don't stay in the closed place. And that's the only thing that people say throughout the world. But even then, like many people get infected. Don't worry, as long as you are maintaining your immunity, I think you are not going to suffer. Especially if you're a young person, you have very little to bother. Most likely you don't know, already it should have come and gone. You don't know that. Yeah. Is there any procedure to validate our new product? Ranjit Kumar, yes, that's what I told you. What you should do is you should try to see that in any product there is a core idea, I mean core solution that you are trying to do. So you must make a minimum viable product, which means a very simple version of your product, and then take it to the customer and then ask him whether that product, that what you have designed, is useful for the purpose that you have designed. So that's the best way to actually, like, learn about products validation. There are very good literature available. I want you to really, like, search in the internet for these keywords. MVP, there are videos on YouTube. What is MVP? How do we validate a minimum viable product? And then there are some product development related videos. So there are very good resources. So you can definitely listen to them. You will get I mean, I really envy you guys. Actually, I'm telling you, 35 years before, when we started, there's no enough information like what you have today. So I wish I'm young today, because I can go and launch a couple of more companies. That's why sometimes I'm helping some youngsters like you all to launch companies. So if you are really looking for some kind of a mentor, assistance, help and all that, you can get in touch with me. Definitely I will give you some help. So I'm already, young people like you are working with me. So a couple of companies, small I mean young companies, people have started. So I am helping them to put a business plan, and then trying to help them to go about how do you develop product, how do you build teams and all that. So you can always note down my email ID, and from there you can initiate a conversation. So I will really be able to help you, and I'm willing to help you. It'd be my pleasure to help you all. So that's about it. Like any other question or anything? Okay, so I think we are coming to the end of the session. So hopefully, I think you will all become, at least a few of you will become successful entrepreneurs. And if you want to become an entrepreneur, do it as early as possible, because that's one way that you can really like learn quickly. I should say that I have never worked for any large companies in my life, but I have learned a lot by having developed companies, myself set up companies, and working in startups, because that gives you a very broad perspective about getting things done. So that's something will really help you even if you fail in a venture. All the experience that you get by building a venture will always be useful for you, because you will become very resilient and strong and very confident. As an individual, you will feel that you can do a lot of things, and it is possible. Today there are tremendous opportunity for you, all of you. I wish you all the best to all of you. So if you require any help anytime, you can always get in touch with me. And thank you for your time, and I would like to thank the CD for this opportunity. Thank you, Shaktivel, for organizing, coordinating this meeting.
Thank
Yeah.
you, sir. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
everyone. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So
Good
thank you,
evening.
participants. So, dear participants, kindly fill the feedback form,
Okay. Bye bye.
which is already shared in chat room.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.